This is Musalole, a 4-year-old male African elephant. And this is Zambezi. He's about the same age. Zambezi and Musalole aren't related, but they've become brothers. They're orphans, each rescued when just a few months old, and cared for by some very dedicated keepers. Life at this elephant nursery has been good, but there's a problem. They've grown up. It's time to move up to big school. So they're embarking on the biggest adventure of their lives. It's going to be challenging. A long journey across Zambia to a new facility deep in the bush. And when they get there, they'll be confronted by some much bigger elephants. Leaving home has never been so tough. This is Lilayi Elephant Nursery, home to 4 orphans who are enjoying a walk in the bush. Musalole is the oldest. He's self-assured and the dominant leader. Zambezi is single-minded and independent. He likes to do things his own way. Unkala is a 1.5 years younger and relies on the older 2 for comfort and reassurance. Muchichili is the baby of the herd. The 2 biggest elephants, dominant Musalole and single-minded Zambezi, have outgrown the orphanage nursery.
Now, Zambezi and Musalole have really reached an age where they need to start becoming more independent. And the focus of our program is to release these elephants back into the wild. So we want to ensure that they're out in the wild as early as possible.
These 2 orphans had a very tough start to life. Zambezi was just 1 month old when he was found alone and exhausted in a swimming pool in a safari camp on the lower Zambezi.
Zambezi is my favorite, because I'm the one who was looking after him by the time he was found. The time he was rescued, he was very small, skinny, and he had a bad diarrhea, and his condition was not stable. So we had to fight to make sure that he recovered. I look after him and to make sure that he's fit and strong.
No one knows what happened to Zambezi's mother or his herd. Musalole's story is very different.
Musalole's rescue was a very traumatic one. He was found in Siomangwezi National Park, which is on the west side of Zambia near Namibia. And when the wildlife police officers had heard gunshot inside the national park, they responded. When they entered the park, they actually came across Musalole at 5 months old with his mother, who had been shot dead, and the poachers were still on her body, hacking out her tusks. As soon as those poachers saw the officers, they opened up fire straight away, and tragically, Officer Satali Musalole was killed. And when we arrived, we found some very, very traumatised wildlife police officers who were mourning the loss of their friend and had very much become attached to the baby elephant and felt that their friend's spirit could live on through him.
Thanks to the dedication of the elephant keepers, Musalole and Zambezi are now healthy 4-year-olds, each with their own character. While Zambezi likes to rile his playmate, Musalole knows when to put him in his place. Big, boisterous, and increasingly unruly, they need to leave the orphanage.
On a practical level, they're making problems around the nursery. They'll pull down structures. They've already started to pull the roof off of the building. And here in Lusaka, we're actually in a small enclosed game park, which is, probably not big enough for a fully grown elephant anyway.
The ultimate goal for all rescued elephants is release back to the wild, but it has to be done in stages. It's time for Zambezi and Musalole to start the next phase. They're going to Elephant High School. The Lilayi Elephant Orphanage is situated in a small game park very close to the city of Lusaka, the capital of Zambia in southern Africa. 320 kilometers to the west lies Elephant Heaven, the vast Kafue National Park, the second largest park in Africa. Its wide open spaces, expansive bush, and plentiful water make it the perfect place for elephants to roam free. In the heart of the park lies Camp Phoenix, the project's release facility, where some older orphaned elephants are already adapting to a life in the wild. Here, the orphans start being weaned off milk and spend more and more time out in the bush. It's the next step towards freedom. This is where Musalole and Zambezi need to be. An elephant's childhood is just as long as our own. In the wild, elephants need this time to learn how to survive. And just like us, they learn how to behave with others of their own kind. Back at the Lilayi orphanage, the elephants have human surrogate mothers. The elephant keepers have tended to their every need and give them a milk bottle every 3 hours, night and day. But Musalole and Zambezi, the two oldest, haven't had an older elephant to look up to since they were just a few months old. That's about to change. If they don't know how to behave with the bigger elephants at Kafue, they could get into real trouble. It's going to take some adjustment. But Rachel has more immediate concerns.
So tomorrow we're planning to move Musalole and Zambezi out to the release facility, and we are very aware that even in doing so it will be a very traumatic experience for them. They will be loaded into a truck and driven for up to 15 hours. So it's not going to be, a comfortable day for them.
But at least their mums will be going with them.
Me and my colleague Aaron will be traveling with them to Kafue National Park. It will be the first time for them to be the back of the truck. Yeah, so we'll do our best as the elephant keepers to comfort them, because we're like their mothers to them. So each and every point you have to stop and also comfort them, behave there for them.
Aaron has been an adoptive mother to free-spirited Zambezi since the elephant was just a month old.
Like for me, I'll be a bit sad because I've been with him for too long, and he has been like my own child. Yeah, so I'll be a bit, sad because I'll lose him. I'm worried because it's his first time of like getting in the car and move a big distance in the car. I think he will be quite difficult to load him because he's a clever elephant.
Getting single-minded Zambezi and herd leader Musalole into a vehicle will be tomorrow's first challenge. So they're about to get a trial run. The transport truck has just arrived, and the keepers want it to be as welcoming as possible.
If you leave the elephants inside, you have to be able to jump out through that hatch in case it gets too busy to get back. Can you do that? Show me. I need to see that you've been able to do it before I let you do it. You have to be able to jump out. Yeah? Yeah? humble. Well done. That was good. Okay, you passed the test.
Oliver, Commander Wakanga.
The elephants know it's time for their bottles of milk. They've spotted the keepers up on the ridge. Each elephant has its own bottle. The plan is to only allow them to drink once inside the truck. The elephants don't understand this new rule. There's only room for one at a time, and even confident Musalole is very suspicious of the dark metal box.
So this is the first time they've gotten to see the transport vehicle. We've loaded it with browse. The guys are holding milk bottles to encourage the elephants to go inside, just to get them used to it so that we know that they will go inside before we try tomorrow morning. Success so far? Not so much. No one's actually been fully inside, but I'm pretty hopeful that given some patience and some time and some more food, then they will go inside.
In the wild, African elephants are used to wide open spaces. They're typically on the move for 18 hours a day. Small, confined spaces are very alien to these huge nomads. It's perhaps no wonder that the orphans are wary of entering a metal box. But there may be another reason for their reluctance. All the elephants except the youngest, Muchachili, have in fact seen this truck once before, and maybe the memory is not a good one. Two years ago, there were 5 elephants at Lilayi, and they all visited this very same vehicle. But the next day, as far as Musalole and Zambezi were concerned, the 2 oldest elephants vanished. Those 2, Maramba and Kavala, were trailblazers, the first elephants to be relocated from Lilayi to Kafue National Park. An elephant never forgets. Musalole and Zambezi know this truck was the precursor to their friend's disappearance from Lilayi. Elvis attempts to lure in Muchachili, the youngest, who wasn't here 2 years ago. But dominant Musalole is getting frustrated. He's the strongest of the Ellies and their leader, but that doesn't mean he's not cautious. He wants that bottle, but he just can't shake the fear. All the elephants take a turn. But none of them will enter the crate. Eventually, it's the smallest elephant who proves to have the greatest courage. Or is it just that Muchachili is the most motivated by food?
Muchachili going back?
Muchachili's inside.
No one else follows Muchachili's lead. It doesn't bode well for tomorrow. The big day has arrived. This will be only the second time that elephants have been moved from Lilayi, and Rachel is concerned.
But the difference we have is that last time the elephants went in on the trail run, first time, no worries, and yesterday these elephants wouldn't go in. So I'm just a bit anxious about how they're going to go in. I think the success will be more with the bottles at this point. So people inside with the bottles. And then I think what I noticed yesterday, which is important, is to encourage the elephants, to talk to them, to reassure them, you know, to touch them. Like you put your hands on them. They're used to you doing that. You remember that you're the mum.
For any mum, it's a big day when your babies finally leave home. The elephants just want their morning bottle. They didn't get their night feeds either. The keepers want them hungry for the task ahead. The two youngsters, Nkala and Muchachili, are kept in their stables, unaware of the big changes ahead. While Musalole and Zambezi follow their keepers out in search of breakfast. They spot their bottles. Milk is a treat that they're used to getting every 3 hours. They haven't had any now for more than 12. Spurred on by hunger, they follow the keepers straight inside. Or maybe not.
Come on, Come on.
It's the start to the day that Rachel feared. And if the bottle won't entice them in, what will? For the next hour, it's a battle of wills. Independent Zambezi loses interest. But self-assured Musalole still wants his bottle. Just one more step. Success. But there's a keeper still inside. It's dangerous to be locked in with a panicking elephant. Now for part 2. A sliding partition secures Musalole in the back. He shakes and clatters the truck. Zambezi has seen enough. He still wants that bottle. But there's a line he won't cross. So it's time for plan B. A light sedative should make him woozy enough to be led inside. But it doesn't go to plan. Musolole's streaming temples reveal he's stressed. They need to get on the road. But Zambezi is going nowhere fast.
Once you wake him up, that's it. We can't do it again.
Subdued, but no less obstinate. He's a half-ton beast. Made of muscle and a mind that won't be persuaded. It takes 16 people to move one young elephant. But eventually, they succeed.
Now I'm feeling pretty good because they're in there, they both look healthy, they're both drinking milk, they're both eating browse, which means that, you know, they're stressed but they're not in too bad a situation, otherwise they would be refusing food and drink. So it's really just a case of getting going as soon as we can, because it's going to be a really long day for them. But yeah, it's really a big relief to see them both inside, so for a moment I didn't think it was going to happen today.
It's 9 a.m. There's 9 hours of daylight ahead, but the journey will be at least 12 hours. It's 320 kilometers from Lilayi, on the outskirts of Lusaka, to Camp Phoenix in Kafue National Park. Much of it on unsealed roads. This is a new and potentially frightening experience for the two jumbo passengers rattling along in a metal box. They will get a break every 2 hours for food and water, but the first stop is an unscheduled one. A major blowout almost caused the truck to roll. Luckily, Musolole and Zambezi are both okay. It's a further delay, and the truck is heating up in the morning sun.
It's a bit of a nightmare. So the elephants seem to be doing okay for right now, which is good, but obviously it's not ideal. We want to just have a smooth journey and to get there as soon as possible so there's less stress for them. And we've already had a stressful start, and now this is just added to it. But the main thing is they're okay, so we'll just keep monitoring them and do what we can.
The elephants need to keep eating to stay strong. And they need to keep cool. In the wild, an elephant's life can revolve around finding enough food and water. An adult can eat 300 kilograms of browse a day. They also drink up to 200 liters of water and will often travel long distances to find it. It's more than just hydrating and cooling down. A scarcity of hair means that elephants can get sunburnt. The mud and dirt act as a sunscreen. Even elephants must take care of their skin, especially under the fierce African sun. It takes the best part of 2 hours to change the tire. But at last, the elephants and their convoy are good to continue. It's not the hottest of days, which is good for the elephants, and at last, things are looking up for Zambezi and Musalole.
They've just drunk 2 litres of milk each and now 2 litres of electrolytes each, and in between that they're eating browse, which is a really great sign. They're obviously not, hugely stressed, but also really, really important to get them hydrated and have them drinking that fluid, so that's really good. So yeah, I'm really pleased. A rocky start, but now things are looking quite good.
They reach the edge of Kafue National Park, but they're still not even halfway into their journey as the roads here get a lot slower. The truck continues to stop every 2 hours, and both Zambezi and Musalole are very keen to eat and drink at every opportunity. It's a good sign they're handling the journey well. But their biggest challenge is still to come. Young elephants need to learn their place in the hierarchy of a herd. Any boisterous youngsters that overstep the mark and fail to show the right amount of respect to their elders are swiftly put in their place. New additions to the Kafue herd will need to mind their manners if they are to integrate safely. It's getting late. The road is painfully slow, and the weather is changing. There's no possibility of stopping for the night, with the elephants still loaded in the truck. It's almost midnight when they finally make it to Camp Phoenix, the elephant release facility. The Kafue elephants are either asleep in their barns or out in the park. The priority is to get Musalole and Zambezi out of the truck and into a stable where they can rest.
Just quiet down, eh?
Nobody knows quite how the 2 elephants will react after such a long confinement. Zambezi is first out.
Give the bottle to the guys.
He's no fight left in him. It's been a long and tiring day.
Good boy. Right, Martin? The poles are there, Martin. The poles are there. Our poles.
Guys, that was very calm, very smooth.
Musalole is equally subdued.
Wow, with me, I'm enormously happy after covering a long distance. We're finally here at the destination, Kafue National Park. Very much happy. Yeah.
It's the day of reckoning. Zambezi and Musalole will meet the Kafue herd. True to form, Independent Zambezi has escaped from his stable, but he seems a little unsure what to do next. He's not been spotted by the resident Ellies, who are waiting to be let out into the bush.
So, as you know, we've got a very exciting moment coming up. Obviously, we want the elephants to meet each other, so we need to try and encourage them towards each other. I think probably Zambezi and Lusaka will be a bit shy. They're not really knowing where they are. They don't know the routine to walk up to the gate, so we're going to have to help them find each other so we can see what's going to happen. Okay, but you know the elephants best, so we're actually going to watch you guys work with them.
Okay.
Aaron and Victor have joined the resident kafui keepers and are going to stay here until the 2 new Ellies have settled in. They let Musalole out of his stable. And suddenly, the herd spots the new arrivals. Will Musalole and Zambezi know how to behave? Musalole, not quite his confident self, decides it's safest to stay behind the fence. Some of the kafui orphans are even smaller than the newcomers. Musalole meets their curiosity with his own. But Zambezi prefers to be alone. Thankfully, there's no aggression. One of the smallest Ellies ventures around behind the fence. Musalole is getting his confidence back. But when he follows the little one out, he comes face to face with Tafika, one of the biggest elephants here. This is when it could get ugly. Musalole is used to being the boss. Tafika backs off, and Musalole doesn't push his luck. Zambezi is still keeping to himself. Musalole meets Tafika once again. But this time, he does the right thing. Presenting his backside and even backing into Tafika is a sign of submission. And all tension is diffused.
We've seen that Musalole is very social and he's interacted really nicely with the elephants. But Zambezi is really avoiding everybody. And being difficult. What a surprise. He kind of was more interested in the browse than the other elephants, which I think is just
a tactic for avoidance. He's probably very interested, but he doesn't quite know how to handle himself.
It's time to leave the boma. Zambezi would rather stay here on his own. But that's why Aaron is here. Like a mother holding the hand of a reluctant toddler, he leads Zambezi to join the others. At last, they head out from the enclosure and into the wilds of Kafue National Park. Zambezi and Musalole stand out from the crowd, their skin stained by the red earth of Lilayi, where they've just come from. This is a new environment for them. They're no longer in the safety of the Lilayi Game Park. Kafue National Park is home to lions, buffalo, and all sorts of other dangers. Zambezi and Musalole almost certainly wouldn't survive if simply left to fend for themselves. In the wild, young elephants enjoy the protection of the herd. A pride of lions could easily bring down a young elephant, even elephants the size of Zambezi and Musalole. These two adults know it. But the lions are blocking their path to water. And when it comes to size and strength, the adult elephants have the upper hand. As long as the young elephants are protected by their elders, they'll come to no harm. Zambezi and Musalole have the protection of their keepers, who are accompanied here in Kafue by armed guards. But if they're to survive here long-term and live truly wild lives, they need to be adopted by bigger, wiser elephants. Two emerge from the bush. There are 2,000 wild elephants in this national park, but these two are graduates of the orphan release program. They're part of the Kafue orphan herd. They're old enough to spend their nights alone in the wild. Chamilandu is 10 years old, and she's the eldest of the Kafue orphans. She greets the two newcomers from Lilayi, who seem a little intimidated. Chamilandu and her companion, Batoka, have been spending weeks at a time out in the bush without the keepers or guards. Musalole and Zambezi could learn a lot if these two take them under their wing. In the wild, elephant herds are led by a matriarch, typically the oldest and most experienced female. Her knowledge is critical to the survival of the herd. She's the one who decides when to move and where to feed. She knows where the water will be flowing. The rest of the herd would struggle without her guidance. At midday, the herd returns to the boma, and Chamilandu, the oldest female orphan, goes with them. The younger elephants get a bottle. Musalole and Zambezi need this comfort and reassurance. But then, Victor and Aaron head off with the other keepers for their lunch, leaving the elephants alone. and Musalole doesn't like it. Chamilandu is the self-appointed matriarch of this close-knit herd of unrelated orphans. She's ready to comfort Musalole, but he's used to being the leader and isn't keen to mingle yet. He needs to learn to fit in. At least Zambezi is becoming a little more sociable. And they're not alone for long. A couple of the elephants have been unwell, and so the vet who travelled from Lilayi has some work to do. It's safest to anaesthetize them from a distance. Matriarch Chamilandu isn't a target, but she's immediately aware something's going on. The drug takes a few minutes to take effect. Musalole is sticking close to Victor, unaware that behind the boma, an elephant is down. The veterinary team needs the rest of the herd safely out of the way, but Chamilandu is demonstrating her protective motherly instincts.
What about pellets? Someone grab a bucket of pellets?
Pellets for these elephants are like a bag of sweets for a child, and the team uses them to draw the other elephants away. The unconscious elephant must be kept cool. Under sedation, he's less able to regulate his own temperature and could overheat. The vets need to work fast, but can't do anything with Chamilandu being so protective. The other darted elephant is getting woozy, and Zambezi appears concerned. The pellets arrive, but still, Chamilandu is caught in two minds. A small stick keeps the airway open, and eventually the vets can get on with their task. They suspect a parasite infection. The other elephant goes down, and Chamilandu is getting increasingly agitated. She may not be very experienced, but she's behaving just like a matriarch, very protective of her herd. Musalole and Zambezi are lucky to be joining this elephant family. The first elephant wakes up, and his rumbles bring Chamilandu rushing back over. Rachel knows to keep well out of the way. Every herd needs a matriarch. And Zambezi and Musalole's integration into this herd and their ultimate return to the wild will depend heavily on Chamilandu. It will be several years before Zambezi and Musalole have the confidence of Chamilandu, staying out all night in the bush. For now, they have the security of the boma. It's been an exhausting day. Back at the Lilayi orphanage on the outskirts of Lusaka, the two youngest elephants, Nkala and Muchichili, have begun to adjust to life without their elders.
Already the relationship has started growing. I'm sure Nkala will start now behaving as is the mother now to Muchichili. He will start like caring just like the older elephants do care for the young ones.
Nkala came to Lilayi when he was just 3 months old and has looked up to Musalole and Zambezi throughout his time here.
Of course, we expect Nkala to be sad, knowing that he's going to miss his family a lot. But I'm sure he will get used with the system of him being the leader now.
And it won't be long before these two make the move to Camp Phoenix, where they will be reunited with their brothers, Zambezi and Musalole. A few days in, and Musalole and Zambezi are already starting to look like part of the herd.
Journey completed. Zambezi and Musalole are now in a national park, which is amazing. And they're in amongst 8 other elephants who have been here for some time. And we can see them now, you know, foraging peacefully side by side. So it's a really good indication that they're already going to be settling in very quickly. It's a huge milestone in their release process, a step towards living in the wild. And this is going to be their new home.
With Chamilandu and the other older and more experienced elephants to guide them, there's a bright future ahead for these 2 elephant orphans, Musalole and Zambezi.